George Cooper dies before The Big Bang Theory ever begins. And because of that, we spend years hearing about him like he was a punchline. To Sheldon, he was the beer-drinking football coach who didn't understand him. To Mary, he was the husband who disappointed her. To Missy and Georgie, he was the dad who was sometimes too tired, too blunt, or too emotionally unavailable to say the right thing. But then young Sheldon shows us the truth. And the truth is much sadder than the version we were told. George Cooper wasn't some lazy, selfish, clueless father who didn't care about his family. He was a man surrounded by people who needed him, depended on him, judged him, misunderstood him, and rarely ever stopped to ask if he was okay. George was not perfect. He drank too much sometimes, he could be stubborn. He didn't always know how to talk to Sheldon or connect with Mary. He didn't always know how to handle a family pulling in 5 different directions at once. But that's what makes him tragic. George Cooper was not a villain. He was exhausted. He was a father, trying to hold together a family that was already cracking while everyone around him seemed to notice his failures more than his sacrifices. And the saddest part is, George never really had anyone in his corner. From the beginning of young Sheldon, George is treated like the simple one. Sheldon is the genius. Mary is the moral center. Meemaw is the fun one. Georgie is the troublemaker. Missy is the overlooked sibling. And George? George is just dad. The guy who goes to work. The guy who pays the bills. The guy who sits in his chair with a beer. The guy everyone expects to be there, but nobody really looks at too closely. That is the tragedy of George Cooper. He is necessary to everyone, but truly understood by almost no one. At home, George is constantly trapped between 2 worlds. On one side, he has Sheldon, a child so brilliant and unusual that the whole family has to reshape itself around him. On the other side, he has Mary, whose faith, anxiety, and need for control often make George feel like an outsider in his own marriage. And stuck between them, George is expected to be patient, supportive, calm, masculine, responsible, and emotionally available, while receiving almost no emotional support himself. When Sheldon struggles, the family rallies around him. When Mary struggles, she gets space to express her fears. When Missy struggles, we understand that she feels invisible. When Georgie struggles, we see that he's growing up too fast. But when George struggles, he usually just has to swallow it. That's what makes his loneliness so quiet. George's pain is not dramatic. He doesn't break down in long speeches. He doesn't beg people to understand him. He doesn't make himself the center of the room. He just takes the insult, takes the disappointment, takes the silence, takes the pressure, and then he goes to work the next day. One of the saddest things about George is that his love is practical, not theatrical. He's not always good at saying the perfect thing, but he shows up. He drives his kids places. He tries to help Sheldon even when he doesn't understand him. He supports Georgie when he makes mistakes. He notices Missy more than people give him credit for. Again and again, he tries to keep his family steady. But because George's love is ordinary, people overlook it. He is not the parent giving emotional monologues. He is not the parent making grand religious speeches. He is not the genius child whose every thought becomes important. He is the guy doing the invisible work. And invisible work is only noticed when it stops getting done. That's why George's death hits so hard. Because once he is gone, the family finally has to face what he actually was. Not just a flawed husband, not just a tired dad, not just the man Sheldon remembered imperfectly. He was the foundation, and foundations are easy to ignore until the house starts falling apart. The saddest truth about George and Sheldon's relationship is that Sheldon never fully understood his father while he was alive. Sheldon was a child, brilliant, yes, but still emotionally immature, and often unable to see the inner lives of the people around him. So George becomes reduced in Sheldon's memory: the dad who watched football, the dad who drank beer, the dad who didn't understand science, the dad who embarrassed him. But young Sheldon shows us something deeper. George may not understand Sheldon's mind, but he still tries to protect him. He may not speak Sheldon's language intellectually, but he supports him in the ways he knows how. That is love. Not perfect love, not eloquent love, but love. And because Sheldon cannot fully appreciate it at the time, George's love becomes one of the great missed connections of the show. A father trying to reach a son who doesn't know how to be reached. A son who will only understand his father years after it's too late. George's marriage to Mary is just as tragic, because it is not built on hatred. That would be simpler. The tragedy is that they do love each other, but they are also slowly wearing each other down. Mary sees George as irresponsible, spiritually lacking, and emotionally distant. George sees Mary as controlling, judgmental, and dismissive. Neither of them is completely wrong, but neither of them is completely fair either. They are two tired people carrying fear, resentment, and disappointment. But George's pain comes out differently. It comes out through silence, through sarcasm, through retreating into work, television, and beer. Not because he doesn't care, but because he doesn't know where to put everything he feels. And that is painfully realistic. A lot of fathers like George are not emotionally absent because they feel nothing. They are emotionally absent because they were never taught what to do with their emotions in the first place. George lives in a world where a man is supposed to provide, endure, and shut up. So he does. He provides, he endures, he shuts up. And then everyone wonders why he seems so distant. What makes George even more heartbreaking is that he is constantly compared to what people want him to be, instead of appreciated for what he actually is. Mary wants him to be more faithful. Sheldon wants him to be more intellectual. Georgie wants him to be more approving. Missy wants him to be more present. His family wants him to be stronger, softer, smarter, stricter, kinder, more ambitious, less embarrassing, more understanding. But George is just a man, a flawed, tired, middle-aged man trying to survive a life that keeps asking more from him than it gives back. And somehow, that makes him one of the most human characters in the entire show. George Cooper is not tragic because he was secretly perfect. He is tragic because he was ordinary. He was the kind of person whose sacrifices are easy to miss because they look like routine. He probably thought love meant keeping food on the table, keeping the lights on, and showing up even when nobody thanked him for it. He was not built for emotional speeches. He was built for endurance, and endurance is noble, but it is also lonely. By the end of Young Sheldon, George's death recontextualizes everything. Suddenly, all the little moments matter more. The arguments matter. The missed conversations matter. The times he tried matter. The times he failed matter. Because death has a cruel way of making ordinary people sacred. Once George is gone, there is no more time to understand him better. No more time for Sheldon to see him clearly. No more time for Mary to repair what was broken. No more time for Missy or Georgie to know him as adults. He leaves behind a family that loved him, but maybe never fully saw him. And that is the sad truth about George Cooper. He was not the joke Sheldon remembered. He was not the failure Mary sometimes treated him like. He was not just the dad in the chair, the coach on the field, or the man with a beer in his hand. He was a lonely person doing his best in a family that needed him more than they knew. George Cooper was misunderstood because he didn't know how to explain himself. And he was alone because everyone assumed he was strong enough to be fine. But he wasn't always fine. He was human. And in the end, that is what makes his story so devastating. Because George Cooper spent his life trying to hold his family together. And only after he was gone did everyone realize he had been holding up more than they ever understood.